Hey, I'm Sith King.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
We're the Rambling Reviewers.
Today we're looking at Steven Universe, the movie!
Which, if they ever make this is a problem I have with movies, If you're making a movie, you should have, something that will differentiate it if you plan on making sequels.
Yeah, there might be multiple movies, like the way they did with Star Trek. I mean, granted, we did manage to tell them apart, mostly because everyone ignored the first one.
And the first one was called The Motion Picture, so at least it had a secondary.
That's not really a secondary title.
Okay, but it's something. Anyways, now you might remember our review of the end of...
Steven Universe?
Yes, for some reason I was going to say Evangelion.
Because we just saw this on YouTube with the MLP.
No.
Okay.
We do not talk about that without my brain exploding. So you might remember that we had some problems with it, like the fact that Lars, despite being turned into a frickin' space pirate, had nothing. Or that everyone just kind of seemed to accept, hey, maybe we shouldn't be assholes really easily.
Yeah, and we know this is a theme of Steven Universe, converting people to good, but it went way too fast with blue, yellow, and white in ascending order of ridiculousness, perhaps. I don't know, maybe yellow and white are tied.
Yeah. That being said, the movie was pretty good.
The movie was good. If you just accept the premise they're going with, which was, look, just ignoring all the problems we just mentioned, accepting the idea that blue, yellow, and white are all nice people, and taking the rest of Steven Universe continuity in kind of broad strokes, this was a lovely movie. And very passionately done. And I wish we hadn't had all these technical glitches making it appear on the TV and eventually laptop screen.
Yeah,
which really is annoying.
Honestly, he bought the film.
I bought it through iTunes, and then I hooked it up to his TV. He's got a big TV here. It's got an HDMI thing. But then iTunes has got this stupid copy protection thing. So then we were on his Roku. And then it's like, oh, we could log on to this one service, whatever it's called. But then we couldn't get the password to work. So I was like, fine, I'll buy it again through YouTube. So we did. And then I had to log into the YouTube account on the Roku on my laptop and then reset the thing. And then finally we got it playing, except there was no sound for some reason. And then I tried to plug in the YouTube display from Firefox on my laptop to the TV, but that didn't work either for some reason. And then we just watched it on a small screen. So the point is, the media landscape is silly. But let's get back to the show.
Okay, so it's oddly enough, I can accept the emotional mental decisions made in this movie over the ones of Yellow Diamond, White Diamond, and Blue Diamond to a degree. But I think we get to that later on. But this felt more emotionally mature in a bunch of ways than the ending of the show.
Yeah, I imagine it was less rushed, since I'm still writing with the theory they were rushing the end of the show.
Yeah, but also the excuses for why the characters were acting the way they did. Anyways, the movie starts three?
I think 2. I think it was just 14 before. He's 16 now.
Yeah, he's 16 now, and for some reason he looks very... Okay, he's...
Magical growth spurt type of thing,
Yeah, and he's got a new voice. I mean, I think it's the same voice.
I think it's the same actor, but they just, changed it.
Yeah, he's just older now. Steven makes an announcement to all of the gems that he's not going to be living on Homeworld with the other diamonds, but instead he's going to go live back on Earth and help continue the peace type stuff of all the gems that are living on Earth now.
Yeah, they made a little tiny colony there. They call it Little Homeworld. And mostly he just loves living on Earth.
With his friends, which he specifically mentions. This is shown all over the Empire, all these different people, gems, listening to the various things that is being said. And then we start to get into one of the problems of the film. Okay, well, it's a minor problem, but just... There's music everywhere. And I know Steven Universe was known very much for doing lots of musical stuff. But I'm not a big... the musical has to blow me out of the water entirely for me to really think, oh, okay, this justified the effort that it took to make everything a musical. Wicked was freaking amazing.
I think Wicked had more talking time than this, from memory, but I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, but still, it had amazing music, and they used a lot of music. And
Les
that's it.
Miserables.
And that's it.
I like
don't
Les
really.
Mis.
Well, I haven't seen Les Mis.
Oh, okay.
If we're
There's
going
like
with
3 spoken lines, depending on your production, it could be 0.
yeah, well, I don't really watch as many plays.
That's all right.
So the music was good. It just didn't blow me out of the park. So to speak.
I appreciated the music a lot. I will say that. Okay, so we gotta distinguish between songs that move the plot versus songs that reflect on this moment of the plot, right? And there was just a little bit I was noticing. Okay, so like a concept will come up, and then we spend 3 minutes kind of just discussing. Here is the concept, without something necessarily changing, because most songs are written that way. And I would call it only just a minor flaw. But I admit I did notice it halfway through. Like, oh, okay, I have to wait for the next plot point to happen.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
But lovely, like, harmonizing, particularly among the diamonds. Mm-hmm. That was like, wow, that's very well done. It's like very precise.
Yeah. It's the singing itself is good, although I'm not fond of Spinella's voice.
I like her voice being weird. I think it was like weird on purpose, so it worked for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like a little.
Her whole animation style is weird. They're like, hey, we got the budget for this. Let's do that.
We'll get to that. Steven comes back to Earth and he sings a song about how it's happily ever after now and how everything is great now and he wishes everything would stay the same forever, which is just bait for some cosmic force to say, oh, things are going good, are they? No, this is literally the moment in the episode where Q would show up to Jean-Luc Picard and say, oh, mon capitan, you feel like things are going okay? Time for some weirdness. And then he sends Jean-Luc back in time to when he got his artificial heart, or throws his ship 3,000 light years to encounter the Borg.
I was just realizing since Star Trek is in the future anyway, Steven could just sing that song every day. Here we are in the future, Steven. We heard that one already.
Yeah, we see that things have changed. Steven's house was destroyed near the end of season 5, so we see that it's been rebuilt into a multi-story building, and the entrance to the temple is now inside of a geodesic dome type thing.
I didn't pay too much attention to the architecture. I didn't notice there was a dome there, and I was like, wait, how much changed? I forget. Whatever. Didn't get to look at it too much.
Beach City looks okay, and now there's a new town called Little Homeworld, which is where all of the gems that are now living on Earth went. Although we didn't really get any thing about what happened to Jasper, which I think was kind of weird.
She was somewhere else. She doesn't have to stay on Earth, right?
Well,
There's a whole empire out there. Gempire.
Right. Gempire.
Yeah, people have been calling that for a while.
Well, I did not hear that. So, anyways, they're calling it Little Homeworld, which is kind of weird. Why would you call it the thing that, would have forced you out or deliberately cursed you into being monsters?
I mean, at this point, Homeworld is nice, so I guess they decided, what the heck, why not?
Where we discover the Homeworld gems. I don't know, the Homeworld 3, Bismuth, Peridot, and Lapis.
The beta team, as it were.
The beta team hanging around and helping to build the new place, including installing a new warp pad, which Steven almost dies because the warp pad is being transported in midair. You'd think they'd turn it off until it was installed.
Yes.
So someone doesn't go through it and then die instantly.
Yeah, OSHA compliance. That's the second movie. Is just Steven discovers OSHA.
Anyway, so more singing about how he wishes this could all go on forever. He encounters Amethyst and Pearl and Garnet, and everything is hunky-dory. I wish it could go on forever. And then a spaceship the size of a volcano starts hovering over Beach City.
Like a 2-second delay, if that.
No. He asks his friends, Pearl, Amethyst, do you think...
he says Garnet, right?
No, he says those first.
Okay, yeah.
Do you think we should stay like this forever? They say yes. Amethyst he asks Garnet, hey, Garnet, what do you see in the future? She smiles, then frowns, and then looks up at the sky, and the spaceship descends.
Okay, never mind.
5-second foreshadowing!
Yay! I actually invented that on TV Tropes.
Yay! Anyways.
He's got Dogpile of Doom.
Yep. Plus a couple fanfic pages. But
that's cool.
Anyways, and then someone jumps down, and this person is very different from, well, the rest of Steven Universe's style. Imagine Bugs Bunny, and that's it. Imagine Bugs Bunny if she's a gem. Literally, she operates on Looney Tunes physics. Her limbs stretch and distort almost at random. The proportions of her body parts look very much like something you'd see out of Mel Blanc's works. And heck, even her gloves look like the sort of gloves that they would wear.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some inspiration there.
Mm-hmm. She starts going, I saw your happily ever after, and I hate you now. And you think this is just the usual... Okay, remember the end of The Incredibles when the Underminer showed up for absolutely no reason and started screaming how he was declaring war on peace and happiness? And then later we find out that that was for absolutely nothing, and he could have just done what he was planning to do and steal the bank without having to declare war on peace and happiness.
He's ridiculous.
Okay, it was like that. We assumed it was like that because, quite frankly, most animation in a movie like this would be like that. But she starts singing again. You'll notice that, just assume that there's a song going on when stuff is happening, and you're safe. Anyways, she says, yes, I'm going to destroy all your happiness, because you left me behind.
Well, she doesn't even say that. She just says, I hate you, and doesn't even, I don't remember the hints there. Pearl recognizes her from somewhere, but doesn't give us any information, because it turns out Spinelli is an absolute badass at fighting, at least while the gems are rusty. They get better by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And takes down everyone.
And she has her own weapon, a scythe that is, okay, well, she slices up the gems, physical forms, not the gems themselves. And Steven manages to use it on Spinel. We don't even get her name.
She uses it on Steven first and disrupts his powers. And then he grabs it and uses it on her. And the way she got sliced there, I just assumed was part of an evil plan. And she got herself sliced on purpose. Because she had been such a badass 3 seconds ago that took down all the gems. And you think she would cartoonishly dodge out of the way of this thing that's not even coming at it from behind or whatever. Yeah, but apparently no, that was an accident.
She's just crazy.
Yeah, I grant you she is crazy. So that's that.
Anyways, so Steven takes the gems. He says, okay, I'm going to bubble Spinel's gem. He doesn't know it's Spinel's name yet.
We're just going to call her that, yeah.
We're just going to call her that. It's just easier. But it turns out that he's having trouble bubbling things, and he can't bubble Spinel, which is good, because otherwise we wouldn't have a movie.
Yeah. Also demonstrates that his powers are very weak. They're not gone.
Anywho, so he takes them into the house, and Greg is like, hey, Steve, what's going on? Yeah, the volcano-sized spaceship outside? Well, she came out of it, and now the crystal gems are here. Greg makes a comment, oh, well, okay, we know that things are going to turn out okay. Any moment now, the gems are going to start glowing, and then they're going to pop out, and they'll be better than ever. Which,
holds up Pearl while he says that.
One nice thing about this movie is it does kind of lampshade some of the conventions that Steven Universe tends to use.
Yeah, there's several even fourth wall moments where they reference the fact that they're singing, or that the beta team are all like, oh, remember when you tried to kill Steven? I tried to kill Steven. I got over it after a day or so.
Lapis is like, I'm still on the fence about it. And then at one point Peridot's holding the device that... Well, okay, we'll get to that in just a moment. So out pops Pearl, except something's weird because instead of just normal Pearl, it's a clamshell, and she asks Greg in a robot voice his identity, and it turns out that her memories are gone, and she's trying to serve Greg
he replies, Greg Universe, and she refers to him that way for
the rest of the movie.
For most of the movie, anyway. Yeah, right. So.
Yeah, they're all basically going back to what they were like when they first popped out of the ground.
Yep. So she's serving Greg as her lord and master there, apparently. And doesn't remember anything, and the other one's debulk. By the way, that's always been a fan theory that the reason it took Pearl so long to reform after her first poofing was that her hologram was active the whole time and using up energy, which I guess is supported if not confirmed by this, because she comes back in 5 minutes. Before it took weeks. Anyway.
Well, I mean, she's been poofed a few other times too.
Oh yeah, I forget.
Anyways, then the rest of them pop out, and they've also been reset back to factory default.
So Ruby's a blind soldier who instantly decides that Sapphire is her charge, or whatever you call someone you're protecting.
Yeah. Sapphire is... She's kind of there. She takes up space and makes noises, but she doesn't really exist as a character at this moment.
Yeah, we don't know. She doesn't seem to have any goals. She's just kind of wandering around. Follows Steven at one point. Okay.
Amethyst is tabula rasa, man. Blank slates. Basically repeating whatever anyone says and kind of doing whatever anyone says and copying their physical movements.
Yeah, so even more blank than Ruby. Like, significantly so.
Yeah. And then Spinel shows up, and she's nice now because she's been reset to factory default as well. And she says that I am Steven's best friend.
Yeah. Is her factory default to latch on to Pink, I wonder? Because
yeah, this is
somehow picks out Steven. Yeah.
We'll talk about that when we get to what happened with Spinel and her deal. But anyways... So Steven decides that in order to fix them, they need to go to Little Homeworld.
He goes to Little Homeworld to talk to the beta team, and for a little while there, I thought the whole adventure would be Steven doing crap with the beta team, which I was like, wow, that's really bold. Like, yeah, all right, we're gonna give these side characters a lot more emphasis, and then like, no, not really. The main Crystal Gems are the emphasis, which okay, I get it, it makes sense. But I was kind of like, oh, that would be neat. Put Steven in a new environment with these new people and have him have different conversations he normally has. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever. So the whole thing becomes how to jog everyone's memory.
And it turns out that Spinel's scythe thing is a resetter device.
Yeah, which is why they're back to factory default.
Which is where we get the amusing fourth wall breaking line of Peridot going, oh no! If I got cut with that, I could lose all my character development!
Yeah, I was like, that's the most fourth wall Steven Universe has ever gone.
Except that time Deadpool showed up. Actually, no. The Uncle Grandpa episode.
Oh, that's not canon.
Oh yeah, I know, but
yeah.
Really, if you're going with which episode,
our ship. I remember this. Yeah.
Anyways. So they try various things to jog people's memories.
Yeah, they manage to get Ruby and Sapphire to fuse, and they're in love with each other, but they don't remember anything else as Garnet. And then, what next? He hangs out with Amethyst.
They try to find Amethyst. And by the way, the whole time, Spinel has been just clinging to Steven's side.
Yep.
And she gets really angry when Steven tries to leave her behind, so he takes her with him. And they eventually manage to... There's a song, and they go through a bunch of things Amethyst likes. And eventually, Amethyst returns to normal.
Yay. But, by the way, that injector is going to kill the Earth. Yeah, we forgot to mention that.
Yeah, the spaceship is also an injector. It's injecting poison into the Earth and stuff.
Now, far be it from me to point out logical solutions to problems that were skipped over in movies. Okay. Yeah, they do mention that, like, oh, we can't just lift it out of the ground because if you do that, it injects faster or something. But, like, you're friends with the Diamonds. They have spaceships. You could lift that whole hillside off of the Earth and, like, nuke the thing in orbit or something.
Also, isn't the cluster, like, isn't Steven best friends with the cluster? Can't the cluster just reach up, yank the injector out, and throw it into space?
Yeah.
In fact, that's how all Steven's problems should be solved. I just have returned from my revenge. Cluster! And just throws her into the sun.
Yeah, that'd be effective. So,
Of course, then we'd have to change the name of the show from Steven Universe to The Cluster Throws All of Its Problems into the Sun.
Yeah. So, okay, he's like, all right, the only one who knows how to turn it off is Spinel, but Spinel doesn't know how to turn it off because she has no memory. The only one who knows about her past is Pearl, so let's go fix Pearl's memory with a rock show.
Yeah, because when it turns out that the injector is going and it's pumping biotoxin into the planet that will kill everything on Earth.
It's a little weird how this works because it seems to be only affecting the local, like, half mile or so. But apparently it will get around to the other 8,000 miles wide of the planet soon.
Yeah, this is again why I say the cluster really should have been considered for this.
And I don't know how the math works out with the 15% in, but only half a mile radius. Numbers, whatever.
Yeah, it's just kind of... It's obviously a MacGuffin, so that, now you have a time limit. Yeah. So they try to get Pearl to remember stuff, and it doesn't work.
Not at first.
So they decided, what's the most disobedient thing you could do? A rock concert! Okay.
Yeah.
Then they go, I've got it. We'll try to imitate Pink Diamond / Rose Quartz, and since she was in love with Rose Quartz, she'll remember her, and that'll turn her back. Which ignores the big part of this plan that goes, hey, wait a minute, she doesn't remember Rose Quartz or Pink Diamond in this form.
I mean, the whole idea is to jog your memories from your previous form, so in theory it could work. But yeah, she's still focused on Greg, so then they go, hey, what we really need.
Which is honestly my favorite fusion in the whole show because of just how, well, I didn't see this one coming.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of fans were hoping for it, though, and it did happen finally.
Steve and Greg fuse into a handsome, muscle-bound, long-haired, four-armed rock star with a pompadour.
I can only assume this is influenced by Greg's imagined self-conception and not his actual physique.
And thus, they do another song, because, of course they do. And Spinell runs away crying because Steven's been focusing so much on his old friends, even though Pearl finally gets her memory back and reveals, oh, Spinell was Pink Diamond's playmate back before she got her first colony.
Yeah, and they hung out in some place called the Garden. So Steven goes off to find Spinell, and
then they travel to the Garden, which is where they are just in time to watch the Avengers decapitate Thanos. You see, all of the films we review take place in the same universe.
The same Steven universe.
Yeah, by the way, Steven, he's not actually 16. He's 21. He missed the 5 years when he was snapped.
Oh, jeez. Wait, how would that even work? If you snapped Steven, would the other half of him still live?
It got both halves.
Fine.
Anyways, but seriously, he finds Spinell, and Spinell sort of remembers.
Yeah, because there's been themes of abandonment going on because he was hanging out with Pearl. She sort of remembers, and then he mentions the garden, and then she remembers where the garden is and warps over there. And it's all decrepit, but...
Yeah, the garden is a Mayan temple in a bubble on an asteroid with organic life.
In space. Yeah.
Because of course it is.
Yeah, that's the very gem thing to do.
Yeah, make something ridiculously impractical, but hey, it looks kind of cool.
Yes.
There, Spinell reveals that she was Pink Diamond's playmate, and for years and years and years, they would play and laugh. And then Pink Diamond was granted a colony, and Pink Diamond just said, hey, let's play a game, Spinell. You wait here, and I'll come back. And the next thing, literally the next person that Spinell ever heard was Steven making his empire-wide announcement that he wasn't going to stick with the rest of the diamonds.
And apparently, I forget his exact wording, but somehow or other he got it across that he is Pink Diamond's son, and Pink Diamond is essentially dead. So, Spinell, you waited 6,000 years for nothing.
Oh, even better. If you look at the various scenes back in the beginning that show all the corners of the Empire the message is broadcasting to, you actually can see the window that the screen Spinell is looking at, and Spinell.
I gotta watch that again because I missed that little clip.
Yeah. So apparently after that, Spinell kind of got a little pissed because she was left alone for 6,000 years.
Yeah.
And the one person that she was designed to please is dead and has been dead for 16 years, and she never frickin' knew.
I believe this may be the worst thing Pink has ever done. I mean, she supervised the beginning of the colony of Earth, but then rebelled and tried to save everybody and did all this heroic stuff. And Steven references, like, oh, my mom leaves problems for me to solve, but, like, she seemed to be doing the best she could against an empire. But this bit where you left a sapient creature alone in the middle of nowhere with no hope of, like, meeting new friends.
Oh, and
Why?
even better, we've seen in the show that diamonds have the ability to impose a geas, or a compulsion, upon their subjects.
Yeah.
So it's likely that Spinel literally could not leave, and she just didn't move for 6,000 years. Which, that's even more horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a compulsion, she overcame it? I'm not sure about this.
I'm pretty sure.
But in any case, she was just waiting there and extremely lonely.
Yes, one line I love about this is Steven saying, "My mom wouldn't do that." Oh wait, yes, she would. She would absolutely do that.
I wonder about those phrasing though. Like, there was a bit in which, okay, Rose at this point becomes more complex because she killed someone in the course of the war. She killed Pink Diamond. And it's like, wait, no, she didn't. Oh, well, then dial back a number of the bad karma points, because what she really did is made Blue suffer grief all those years. But Blue is kind of a more sympathetic Hitler. So, like,
Yeah. So then Spinel starts to realize, hey, I can leave this place and do good now. And stuff.
Well, wait, what time? With the present we're talking about that?
Yeah, talking about
Okay,
the-
yeah. As opposed to... Because there was like an hour gap between the transmission and the doomsday weapon.
Yeah, I pointed this out to him. Where the hell did she get a doomsday weapon? First off, this thing had to have... Okay, in the original scenario, we were thinking that she was waiting for thousands of years to get her revenge on Pink or Steven or something. Or that this was an enforcer of the diamonds who would take care of particularly pesky organic worlds, which would make sense. But no, she has like an hour and probably no access codes. This would be like if your toy Megatron managed to hijack the U.S. Nuclear Weapons Command.
That could be a very interesting fan fiction.
I mean that. Okay, admittedly, there was a movie like that called Small Soldiers.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay. So you had an hour in which to acquire this memory eraser device, a super weapon capable of eradicating all life on the planet. Wait,
and the coordinates of Earth.
The coordinates of Earth, specifically the coordinates of Beach City.
Yeah.
Exactly where Steven is standing. Yeah. So, you just... Also, since this was clearly something that was pre-made... Wait a minute. If it was pre-made, why did it have Spinel's gem symbol on the top?
She customized it during that hour?
Okay.
I will take this to Earth and kill everyone, but first, a custom paint job.
But first... I will get my revenge on Pink Diamond's son. I will eradicate all life on Earth, and I will have revenge. But first, yo, this is Spinel. Welcome to Pimp My Ride.
If only we had animation for our reviews.
No, you are very lucky that we don't have that. Actually, seriously, if anyone wants to make animation of that, please and thank you.
Yes.
So in an hour, she had... God, the Diamond security sucks. Because I guess the only alternative is that Pink Diamond, who loved organic life so much, just had this super weapon in the basement.
Of the garden?
Of the garden that's full of organic life.
Just in case I need to kill everything in this garden.
Look, I mean, at this point, it's not so much Pink Diamond is a morally dubious character, it's how evil really was she? On the scale of Hitler to Ultra Hitler. How bad was Pink Diamond?
No. Whatever. She has an injector now. MacGuffin came from nowhere.
Yeah, so... No, I'm not getting over how quickly she was able to get her hands on
it would make
this.
a lot more sense if she were some sort of military figure, as you said, but she's utterly not. And yeah, if they had these things, why didn't they use it during the Crystal Rebellion?
Or heck, when Steven was...
Oh yeah, or when Steven was messing around with stuff, when instead of the cluster, which takes like all these years to set up, thousands of years apparently, right? Because they started it during Rose's time.
Yeah, they could have
use the injector that kills everyone in less than a day. If you have one of those.
Yeah, what the hell? I mean, I guess you could argue that Blue Diamond wanted to... wanted to preserve the organic life since it's what Pink wanted.
Yeah,
as
but
shown
like
with the
Yellow,
zoo.
Yellow was like overruling her and shit, and wanted
Yeah.
to use the cluster to blow the whole place up.
Okay, so we're gonna just assume that this makes no sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, Spinel is now sort of good, and everyone gathers together, and
She turns off the injector for us. Thank you, Spinel.
then Steven admittedly
has some very poorly phrased phrases.
he basically goes, "Okay, Spinel, thank you very much. Now we need to work on fixing all the other problems, like getting my powers back and fixing Garnet." And Spinel, being an emotionally unstable person who is left alone on an asteroid for 6,000 years, unable to fulfill her primary function, and has massive abandonment issues, she starts thinking, "Hey, is the only reason that you decided to fix me so that you could turn this doomsday machine off? Are you
And
just
then
gonna
slice me up and erase my memory? Which would be a pretty crafty plan, though kind of evil.
Yeah, the memory eraser device falls out of Steven's pocket, and Spinel thinks, "Oh, that was the plan the whole time," when in fact Steven had just stuck it in his pocket and forgot about it. So she turns the injector back on at maximum strength because fuck you, fuck this planet, and I don't like your face either. And more songs, blah, blah, blah. Garnet finally gets her memory back. Though, sadly, she does not, in fact, sing Stronger Than You again and punch the shit out of Spinel.
I mean, she does fight well with Spinel.
Yeah, which...
Suddenly we're kind of competent against Spinel.
This song, Garnet's singing about, the truth is like the best thing because it's truth and love and truth and, that kind of happy nonsense that kind of just all blurs together. But the music absolutely does not fit the tone of what's going on, which is when, she's singing and, the action is flowing to the music, but here's the problem. The words are not conveying the fact that the crystal gems are fighting an insane madman who is trying to poison the earth!
And the injector is like going in hyperdrive, hyper mode, whatever.
And is destroying Beach City. And like
people are
waves
in
of
danger.
super toxin are flowing through the streets.
Yeah, but it's all cool. I mean, like, I felt like it was like an intended tonal clash, meant to make it kind of more interesting, but I could also see it feeling weird if you just shift your perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a close shave,
Yeah, so eventually...
Also, I mentioned, though, the thing that prompts Garnet's memory to return is the concept of truth. And I was like, was that ever a Garnet thing, really? Like, you're not Wonder Woman, you're not, associated with truth.
I guess being true to yourself is something that she's all about because, she basically rebelled so she could be who she is.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like...
But, love better summarizes that for her. But she already had a song about love, so, they had to do something. I want truth. Yay! Yeah. It was still a good song. It was just slightly odd for the context of the plot.
So then Steven goes back, climbs to the top of the injector, and faces down Spinel. And Spinel starts kicking his ass.
Yeah.
I gotta admit, I kind of like this. Not just because, the guy who talks his enemies to death all the time getting his ass kicked. That's a bit of a guilty pleasure. Is it so wrong that just once I wanted Spock to get his ass handed to him? More so than usual.
Yeah. More, I guess Worf was always the guy. That's a different series, I know, but anyway.
Yeah. But I don't know. Is it wrong that I want to see the people who absolutely espouse nonviolence the most get exposed to violence to them?
I mean, I see where you're coming from there because it can feel like the writers are cheating when nonviolence always works.
Yeah, just once I'd like to see Fluttershy go, okay, now I think that BAM!
Fluttershy.
Yeah.
I know you're saying.
It's a guilty pleasure, but at the same time, just every time in every series, it's just, oh, you must always be nonviolent. Yeah, well, there's going to be some people who don't respect that.
Yeah, this is kind of what we were talking about at the review of the end of the show.
Yeah, so Spinel's beating the shit out of him, and then Steven starts going, why isn't this working? I am reliving all of the things that's happened in my life.
A Gemma barely met is trying to kill me. have to deal with my mom's problems that she left behind for me, which again I think is exaggerated, but okay.
No, that's fairly accurate.
I feel like the other diamonds have caused problems for Stevens to deal with way more than his own mom has.
Yeah, she
aside
did
from
not
like
help.
making him exist, which is like okay, you're allowed to do that. But anyway,
Bismuth. Hey,
okay, I'll
say
give you.
what you will about Bismuth. At least Bismuth was in a bubble
That's what
and
I was about to say. Yeah,
and wasn't aware of the passing of time. But
Yes.
hiding her from the rest of the crystal gems was also pretty skeevy.
that was weird. I'll give you that. She should have like left some people a note. Hey, don't unlock Bismuth, please. She's murderous.
Yeah.
You know.
Anyways, so then Steven finally has the revelation that it doesn't matter, that he's been going through all the same things he did back in the series because he learned to change in the series, to change who he was, and that as soon as he started accepting happily ever, after he realized, oh no, I don't want or need to change, and that's why he's not growing as a person, which... Okay, yeah, when people say, I wish this moment could last forever, there's usually the unspoken expectation that, but it won't. So, I don't really think that this was as much of a character development, because it's basically him saying...
I think it was more like the writers, reflecting on the fact that Steven has changed as a way of nodding to, like, remember all that series that you guys have already watched? As opposed to saying Steven is someone who has a problem with change and needs to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess. So, because he realizes, I can change, suddenly Steven gets his powers back, and he starts fighting back. And, like, he sings more about change, and blah, 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 more singing, blah, 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 blah. Until finally Spinel just starts beating on his shield until she breaks down crying and says, oh crap, I'm a terrible person. I shouldn't have been doing this. No shit!
You know, as someone who's been through various forms of abandonment, I do sympathize with your abandonment, Spinel. Try not to go for genocide as your first option.
See, this is why I would never be a supervillain, because my mind is too much in the, what is the cost benefit of this?
Yes.
Just like, okay, I feel intense rage. I want to hurt people. Yeah, but would it be worth it, though?
Especially hurting the whole planet. I mean, it's just unfair.
Yeah, I mean, but Spinel just kind of breaks down at this point, which...
I thought it was heartwarming.
It is
I was
heartwarming.
wishing I had a bigger screen for it, but it was still good.
Okay. I don't know. It felt a tiny bit anticlimactic. Yes, it was at the end of Steven talking about her doing this, but it felt like there should have been like a bigger, more obvious trigger for her realizing that she'd done stuff wrong.
Yeah, that would be nice. There was something kind of clever in there to make it clear. Something along the lines. Well, I almost want to be like
instead of her just kind of running out of steam.
Yeah, though frankly, there are real life things like that where people are angry and then they run out of steam and then they rethink things with it.
No, and I understand that.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think the problem is that this is another example of Steven Universe trying to apply a fantastic Aesop to a real world Aesop to a fantastic situation. Okay, I put this entry into there was a series that's called The Glove of Darth Vader. It is a series of books for kids. It was published in the early 90s. It's now utterly non-canon because of the Star Wars continuity reboot that says that, oh no, only the Disney properties and like these other things that we specifically said are canon now, but this was especially non-canon. The TV Tropes page said, and that's terrible, for the summary of the first book, which had an anti-whaling message.
Oh yeah, I remember this book.
Well, see, but the reason why it breaks down is that, in specifics, whale-like creatures called Walladons on the planet of Mon Cala are being hunted by the Empire, which already just... Once you know enough about Star Wars to realize what's going on here, it already is, like, really insanely stupid. Because Mon Cala is basically the shipyard for all of the Alliance's warships. How the hell would the Empire have a presence on Mon Cala when this would be like terrorists trying to set up shop in the middle of
The White House.
in the middle of this would be like
middle of the Pentagon.
This is like ISIS in the park in the middle of the Pentagon going, ha 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 ha, now our plan to hunt the koi in the koi ponds will be successful. They hunt anyway, the Empire hunts the Waladons because their meat is highly precious. Now, normally this would be a bit ham-fisted to show, oh, the Empire is evil, they're hunting whales. Except for something, Waladons are sapient. They're people. We speak to one in the book.
So it's obvious it becomes, you don't, yeah.
So obviously it's still evil, but it brings into mind that this isn't just poaching, because there are still some concerns. There is some ethical debate about hunting whales in the real world. Like, there are some who do it for cultural reasons, and, you know, as long as that's carefully done, you know, we can...
Sustainably, it is at least better than non-sustainably.
And there's debate over, you know, if it's what it's okay for, what it's not okay for, how many whales is sustainable.
Okay.
But this goes into, okay, but now you're murdering people. So you were literally murdering sapient species and then eating them. So it's kind of where the metaphor breaks down.
Right. How does this apply to Steven Universe? Because you lost me.
It's an example of authors trying to take a real-world issue and then bringing it into their fantasy universe and not realizing the other implications of it.
So the other implications in this case are... I mean, the real-world issue is abandonment, I guess. And then the other implications are... genocide, which is not what would happen in the real world.
The most obvious example is the diamonds. You know, you're trying to take the real world example of people aren't always perfect and then applying it to Super Hitler and magical girl cronies.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying there.
And in this case, it's... Spinel was abandoned for 6,000 years. And I can accept that she had a lot of problems. Would you believe that I actually can't remember where I was going with this?
Okay. You can just leave. The quickest summary I can get there is we are pretty quick to forgive someone who just tried to doomsday the Earth. And that is odd. And that is not the first time we've had this problem in Steven Universe. But okay. She runs out of steam, as you're saying, and realizes that Steven's right, and happens to destroy the injector in the process. And then Steven has his powers back, and it's like, oh wait, turns out he can kiss the Earth and, like, heal 5-foot patches of it at a time.
So can he, like, pee and heal? Does he have healing pee? Because that would seem like if you could put that into watering cans and just spread that out.
Jeez, man.
Look, I know that's horrible, but it's got to be of a larger volume. You can cover a larger volume of area.
Okay.
Look, I'm not trying to make this weird.
I get that's a logical question.
But when you get into the concept that bodily fluids are healing secretions... You gotta start wondering, how do we best maximize this?
Oh my god. Yep. Engineering applied to fantasy worlds gets you in some weird places. Fantasy, sci-fi, whatever you know what I mean. I was just gonna go with how many spots of the ground does he need to kiss? Like they reference, like we need to get him some water and stuff. Like
plus, isn't the ocean? Wasn't there this stuff in the ocean?
Does he need to like kiss the ocean? Does he heal at things at depth when he kisses them at the surface? Because the whole idea of an injector is it goes down. Is there like a whole second movie of him like carving out coal mine shafts in the earth and kissing each like part of it every 10 feet down?
Also, the injector is injecting directly into the hill that the temple is a part of. So, does that mean that Amethyst's room is now full of biotoxin? Or whatever?
It wouldn't actually harm Amethyst being non-biological.
Well, I know, but she'd still be. But still, the gems would be pissed that they'd open the door and then tidal wave.
Yeah, I just assumed because the temple's got this extra dimensional thing going on that it was not affected by injections from above. You know, it's just the hill gets touched somehow. Yeah. So then it's all right, Steven. Maybe I'm glad you offered to be my friend. I do believe you, but I really think we got off on the wrong foot. and I want to know where else to go. And then the diamonds show up.
Yeah,
at that very moment.
Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, I mean, at least they were established at the beginning.
The diamonds show up and they're like, Steven, we've decided to come and live here on Earth with you.
Also, your planet's disgusting because we have no social graces.
Okay, admittedly, the planet was just frickin' blown up.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm willing to give them a pass for this one because the whole area was just destroyed. You'd think they'd recognize gem technology in the wreckage.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of oblivious, whatever.
Anyways, but then they realize, oh wait, Spinel. We all love Spinel, and we think Spinel's hilarious, and she reminds us of Pink Diamond, so we'll take her instead and go back home. And visit when you can. Won't you, sweetie?
Yay! So he says, yes, and that sets up everything.
Yeah, and then eventually it shows slowly Steven, the beach city area being slowly restored to normal, and Steven just sings more, and everything is the end.
Yep. And Connie was there, by the way. She didn't get to do a whole lot, but at least she got to swing a sword a few times. Yeah. And we got cameos from a bunch of people. We got to see the non-corrupted forms of the Earth Beetle and Heaven Beetle.
We did see them back.
How did we see them?
Yeah, but they were really tiny. So.
Yeah, they always are. And we got, the Steve Greg fusion that I hadn't even thought to ask for before, but I'm sure other people online have been asking for a while.
It was cool.
Yeah, there's a few things I hoped they would get to that they didn't, which I guess maybe they'll never get to. I don't know. Like, why did Rose give up her physical form to become Steven? Why did she, it's normal to want to have a son. It's not normal to essentially commit suicide in order to do it. Which is my headcanon has always been that she was terminal for some reason anyway, and this was the only way to continue on in some form. But they didn't address that. Also, Rose has this song in the end credits that very much sounds, not these end credits, but the usual end credits, that very much sounds like it's directed at Steven. If I could begin to be half of what you think of me, I could do about anything. I could even learn to love. Steven, you're a better person than I ever was.
Honestly, I always thought that song was from her to Greg.
That could be her to Greg. But I had always hoped there'd be some point where he basically gets to talk to his mom's ghost, and she would sing that song to him. He'd be some weird headspace inside the gem, a magical thingamajig.
Yeah, I would like to see Steven actually interacting with the real Rose Quartz at some point.
Right. I may have watched this in the previous review, but my version of things involves White Diamond did that whole mind control thing, right? So that could be it zaps him into his own brain, right, into his own gem, and then the spirit of his mom shows up and defends him, and then explains that she's essentially been hibernating in his gem all this time, so she hasn't been awake to experience anything, but he can show her his memories, and then they have to break out, and then he has to imagine all his friends, and then they all imaginary constructs of them show up, and then even freaking Lonely Blade shows up, and Dog Copter shows up, and there's this huge battle scene fighting against White Diamond's constructs or whatever inside his mind. It would be awesome, and didn't have time for any of that.
Another problem I had about the movie, and this is a minor thing because, they still haven't given up on the thing that everything must be from Steven's perspective.
Yeah, they still have not given up on that.
Okay, the diamonds are not evil, making air quotes here, anymore. But yeah, the diamonds weren't the only people in the Empire. There were billions of quartzes and insert minerals here. Who ran the diamonds thing. How are they reacting to the cessation of the eternal conflict against the universe? How is the average gem on the street dealing with the fact that there is now no longer a massive drive for expansion and that organics are now okay?
Yeah, that could be a lot of interesting conflict that way.
Hell, there could be you have the potential there for a civil war with a conservative element saying we should go back to our conquering roots. We are the mightiest species in existence. All shall tremble before us, and the diamonds have abandoned their path.
All right, and that totally could have been the villain here, who shows up with a doomsday device stolen from the black labs of the homeworld, and decides to kill Earth because they're so mad at the whole idea of the Gempire becoming pacifistic.
Earth would be an excellent place to start. Not only is it a sign of gems and organic life interacting, it's the site of Rose Quartz's stuff. And it's where all of the formerly corrupted gems are now living. They could see it as a sign of impurity.
Yeah, they could do that.
Kinda
Now,
like
what
the off colors.
Yeah, what moral lessons and stuff and emotional growth we would get out of this is slightly vague, but we could come up with something.
Also, another big problem. No Pad Paracha.
No, Pad Paracha. Who's Pad Paracha? I forgot this part.
The Sapphire who predicts the past.
Oh, right, that one. Yeah.
Also, Lars, despite the fact that he still would have the keys to the Sun Obliterator or the Sun, not the Sun Crusher. That's a super weapon from Star Wars Legends.
Yeah,
But, like,
Emerald's ship, whatever it was called.
Yeah, Emerald. We never got any resolution on Emerald or
Yeah.
Lars's plot line, despite the fact that he's a
Yeah.
space pirate now, and that would still be a cooler show by 1,000
He
points.
doesn't seem to be a space pirate in this movie. He's just... Why doesn't he get his spaceship to blow up the injectors? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he has weapons. He is a fighter shaped like a car.
Yeah.
Also, Sadie and Lars, they never interact. He shows up at her show,
I mean, they're walking together at one point, but I was like...
but that was like so much in the background that I didn't even notice it until this point.
Also, Sadie's song, like, I like Sadie in general, and I like the Sadie Killers and all that. Her song is probably the best example of a song that does not actually move the plot. Right? Remember this? It was like, all right,
You literally
disobedience is a concept. A couple minutes of that. Didn't work. New song.
You could have literally skipped straight from the concert starts to the Greg Stephen fusion, and you would have lost nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like a terrible song. It's just like if you watch Prince of Egypt, for instance, I feel like every song in that movie was moving the plot. I remember them saying that on the commentary track or something. Like they were trying to do that deliberately.
Yeah, Prince of Egypt, that is a good movie. And it's not that Spinell is a unique idea for a villain, and I do like it when a villain has a point or there's a reason behind their actions.
Yeah, and
She's deeply insane from 6,000 years of isolation and being unable to fulfill her primary program.
right, and in a show that's so much about togetherness, community, friendship, and love, someone who's lacking in that would be a natural villain. It's slightly off in that Steven doesn't have much room to grow on this, even though explicitly his like capacity for growth is like an important part of him. He was completely unaware that Spinell existed. He was completely uninvolved in the genesis of this problem. It's not like
To be fair, he was... That basically describes his introduction to every villain in the series.
Right, well that's a weakness, right? Like, okay, Back to the Future. There's a bit where Marty McFly, Back to the Future 2, gets greedy, and because of this, accidentally screws up the whole timeline with the almanac, and terrible things happen in the new 1985. So he has to overcome that greed, and he also has to overcome the, what do you think you are, chicken, problem he's got with pride, and he does overcome that later, and that like fixes the future, so the 2015 will be better. So it's nice when your character has a flaw that is causing the problems, and then him overcoming his flaw helps overcome the problems. But Steven is cleaning up other problems that previously existed using essentially the same tactics as he always uses, which is to talk to people and show them empathy, which are good strategies, but it leaves him less room to grow than, say, a character who had problems showing empathy, learning to be empathetic.
Which is why that I think that the beta team should have taken the reins in this one. It would have showed off their growth and how they've changed from their days when they first started out. And furthermore, this is a bigger problem because it's Steven going back to doing the exact same thing that Amethyst tried to tell him to stop doing. He says, she says, you're always taking on all of our problems and trying to solve them. You should stop that and worry about you.
That would be nice to make a whole movie on that, because that was a great moment. I'm glad that they had that at all in the series of someone being like, no, wait a minute, Steven, seriously. It's great you want to help Amethyst, but she can, like, talk to Vidalia or something. You are dealing with your own shit. It's okay to focus on your own shit.
You know what I'm also upset about this movie for? The place that they find Amethyst is Vidalia's garage, with no explanation of how she got there. But you'd think that Vidalia would be, like, really concerned about the fact that her friend, Amethyst, what's the word?
Lost her memory?
Yeah. Is tabula rasa there.
I would like to see Vidalia in this. I guess they didn't feel they had enough time for her.
Which stinks, because it... Honestly, Onion Friend was a terrible episode.
I remember this.
We could have developed Amethyst as a character. We could have seen what she was like before Steven was around. We could have seen what she was like, and how she interacts with normal humans. Because, honestly, the gems don't interact with normal humans as we see. But no, we get to see Steven watching a video of Onion being born. And Onion's secret guy's storage room.
And his mouse.
Which he keeps in his mouth. Just, why? No, that episode will never not be stupid.
I mean, yeah, it's like I'm more forgiving of Onion's weirdness. Okay, they want to have a weird character, fine. But I'll grant you, it's a big missed opportunity for Amethyst. If we could just skip the camera lock on Steven, I would be more interested to hear about Amethyst's pre-Steven life and friendships.
Honestly, this is a big problem for Amethyst because it means Steven's character growth, or character growth, I'm making air quotes here, comes at the cost of learning about Amethyst. Like, okay, when they're at the human zoo, we got the episode where they have to deal with the fact that the humans are all spoiled babies. And, fine, but then Amethyst has an off-screen meetings with her family there, and she's never met them. It's been this huge part of her character that she doesn't feel like she fits in with other Amethysts, especially compared to Jasper. And seeing her reconcile with all of these other Amethysts and how... Yeah.
And they get along and they have a lot to talk about. And, where did they all go? Why are none of them hanging out with Amethyst 2 years later, right?
Yeah, and furthermore, because of the confidence boost she gained from that experience that we never saw, she quits wrestling a few episodes later, even though wrestling was a big part of her character and something that she used to feel good about herself.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, we got to see her ending the wrestling, but we got to see it through Steven's eyes. We got a more limited exploration of that change in Amethyst.
What we're seeing here is an episode of Doctor Who where we get to see things from the present view of the person who doesn't go along with the Doctor, and we just watch the Doctor running back and forth and holding random technological devices before eventually he stops and screams, "Whatever you do, don't get up from this table or you will turn to stone!" And then he runs off, and then 5 minutes later he comes back and says, "It's okay, the universe was this close to being destroyed, but you didn't move."
I mean, to be fair, Steven's more active than that, but yeah, I know what you mean. This is just going back into our view of the whole show.
Yeah, so...
It's a great show overall. Just, it does have flaws. That's what, yeah.
Yeah, so ultimately... The ending felt a little rushed, in my opinion, and while it was a callback to the beginning, a nice bookend, the fact that it was so neatly tied off just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
And that may be especially because Steven explicitly says near the end, what is it? There's no happily ever after. I'll always have more work to do. And then, immediately starts singing about how it's happily ever after, and, the only work he has left to do is to kiss the ground a lot. And, I get it, you want your happy ending, but you just said we don't get to have those? It's just a little discordant.
Also, didn't Peridot say that once all the toxin was injected into the Earth, wouldn't that destroy all of Earth's bio-life thing?
Yeah, apparently it doesn't do that, actually. It just destroys, 100 yards or so. And puts a few rivers of pink lava in Beach City, and that's about it. So we're good. Oh, and it stuns Greg's arm for all of an hour before Steven kisses it.
Yeah. Wait a second. A guy suffers an injury on his arm that turns his arm into a dark maroon/puce color and gets healed by kissing. Oh my god! How did we not see it before? Greg Universe is Izuku Midoriya. And Steven is Recovery Girl.
There you go.
It all makes too little sense.
Also, Spinel is Lotso, and who else did you say? Prospector.
Lotso and honestly, her whole character arc could be summed up as, I am Lotso Huggins Bear / the Prospector from Toy Stories 2 and 3. Not respectively.
Right.
I'm not against the cons. Those were good characters. but I've seen. I mean, okay, yes, character archetypes can repeat, but where was I going with this?
There could have been more. If you had the 2-hour movie and were willing to break the camera lock on Steven, we could do more on like subplots and stuff. Because everyone had this like very self-contained subplot of I need to stand here until Steven jogs my memory, right? It wasn't like Pearl developed in some particular way, or that Garnet did, or that Amethyst did, or that Greg did, or that whatever. It was really just the villain who got to develop in this movie, and like a little bit of Steven, kind of.
I don't really think he developed at all.
I mean, they.
No.
Yeah,
I'm serious. Tell me how he was different. Oh, he was different in that he was like, yeah, it's happily ever after, but I have to work. Which I don't think he was.
Change, I'll give you.
I don't think he was planning on not working ever again. Now that there was peace in the galaxy.
Yeah.
So
no, not a lot. It was really just the villain that developed.
Yeah.
Imagine they could do like several people developing it. Granted, Steven has developed over the course of the series. We saw him grow up, and that was fun. But here it's he's already jumped ahead his 2 years, and he mostly keeps doing what he's always been doing. So
yeah, he didn't really. I think. Okay, Connie kissed him.
Yeah,
did she ever do that back in the main series?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's a change.
That was cool. It lasted all 1 second before she leaves for half an hour. And,
you know what's really dumb about where Connie's going? She's going to space camp.
I can assume. I just have to assume she has to be going as an instructor to tell everyone else how it's done.
Yeah, I mean, Connie has gone on multiple faster than light starships. She visited. She is the first pure-blooded human to set foot on another alien world.
Yeah, I guess. I'm thinking of the zoo, but it's not technically an alien world. Okay. It's an alien space colony.
Okay, she's the first human to voluntarily do that.
I see.
Yeah, it's the difference between we will send a man to the moon and we will involuntarily send a man to the moon.
Jeez, that would have changed the whole tenor.
There's a cartoon called Our Cartoon President, makes fun of Donald Trump, and basically he said exactly that. My plan for space is to make sure that...
My plan for space is a very good plan. Excellent plan. I went to Harvard,
Okay, you're like doing a Bernie
Sanders.
I am,
actually. I'm not very good at this.
He was basically saying, I vow to make Ted Cruz the first person to involuntarily be sent to the moon.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's... Connie going to space camp is like Neil Armstrong going to space camp. I don't really
to be an instructor. Honestly, they need to get rid of her for most of the movie because there's too much going on otherwise. So what happens when you have so many characters that are a big happy family that would logically spend every scene together and then no one would have time for dialogue.
So yeah, that's Steven Universe the movie. It was good, a few minor flaws, but ultimately I think it was more satisfying than the ending of the show.
Yeah, it felt less of a wall banger, to be sure.
Like, I understood the villain's motivation.
Yes, she changes in a way that makes sense to us.
Plus, she's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And she's understandably crazy.
Yeah, no. Horrible. I honestly, being forced into, say, solitary confinement for a week is really hard on the human mind. Let alone 6,000 years. So what the hell, Pink? Did you just, forget somehow? Did you get hit with the forgetting ray? I don't know.
Anyways. So, yeah, that's Steven Universe, the movie. Do you have anything else?
That's about it.
Okay, I'm Sith King.
That's Signing
Signing off.